How do you feel about having only English signs on Mount Vernon's public buildings?
Of course, I get that first question. To be honest with you, I think it's a policy decision that needs to go to the City Council. You know, the mayor represents all of the citizens of the City of Mount Vernon. I've had a lot of conversations about this, and not only about Spanish, but about other languages also. I've had some conversations with people and say, well, just don't put Spanish, but put some of these other ones on there. I think we need to be reasonable about this. I think we need to come up with a policy that makes reasonable sense out of English only, or some other languages that are in our community. But the thing is, the mayor and the City Council represents all of the City of Mount Vernon. And the demographics, as they change, we need to change as well. And I think that's an important message to send out to our citizens, is that we will look at those opportunities as they come. But it's not a mayor's decision, I don't think, to do that. I think it's the City Council's decision to make those policies so that the mayor can follow those, whatever those policies are.
How do you feel about having only English signs on Mount Vernon's public buildings?
I think that your government should reach out to you sometimes, and not always you reaching out to the government. Just recently at Hospice of the Northwest, I analyzed the federal guidelines for providing information in other languages based on the population that you serve. Analyzed Title VI, and looked at our demographics to see if we were required by federal law to provide this information in Spanish, specifically here in our community. And we did not meet federal requirements to do that, but our organization decided that this was important. This was part of our community. So I developed an entire admission packet and binder of information to serve our Spanish-speaking population. Something like a sign on a building can build trust. Can build trust with a significant part of our community. And I think parts of our city administration have done a wonderful job of reaching out, specifically the police department, much to the credit of Officer John Gerlando in the Colshan neighborhood. I spent a couple of days working with him in the building the community garden, hauling timbers with folks from our Latino community. And we had a great time. We worked really hard, we got really sweaty. They came out because they wanted to build their community to be better. So part of the core value that I stated I was running for was inclusion. If that means a sign for them to feel included, then that's important. I also believe it's a City Council policy, but I would love to have a dialogue shortly after January 2nd and talk about how we can serve our Spanish-speaking community, our Russian-speaking community, and ask them what they would like to do to feel more included in our government.
Again, you touched on it, but we'll ask you to expand a little more and have a chance to. What will you do to represent the growing Latino population in our community?
All right. I'll expand a little bit then about what I was speaking of in my role at the police department. It was a great privilege to work with block watches. Block watches all over our community. I have about 82 captains that work together to help build confidence. Twice a year, we used to publish a community newsletter. And so I would translate that into Spanish and Russian so that the captains could go out and feel that they could be inclusive of the folks in their neighborhood. So again, building that trust with people is a start to have them included in the community. Other outside-of-the-box types of projects that have been very successful, especially in the Colshan area, are not only gardens, butterfly gardens, some trails. They had children that were involved in a mosaic project, and if you haven't driven up there, you should. But one of the key things that I think is important is that continuing education opportunity, not only for Spanish-speaking, Russian-speaking, or any other community, but as a whole community for us, to get to know each other, to get rid of some of that fear that I think drives a lot of the angst that some people have. I had the privilege of living overseas in Uruguay and Malaysia, and I can tell you I was welcomed with open arms. in those cultures. They were interested to learn. They loved the fact my daughter was very blonde, and they wanted to just touch her and talk with her. So I experienced a very positive part of a different culture, and I think we should be models for that here in Mount Vernon. A sense of community is our best weapon against crime, economic decline, and indifference. For those of you in agriculture, you're familiar with farm raising, aren't you? Where one person is helped by a community, and that community is stronger and feels more positive. This is no different in welcoming those of other cultures.
What will you do to represent the growing Latino population in our community?
You know, the easy answer is outreach and communication, but it goes a lot more deeper than that. You know, being involved in the community with our recreation programs, we go clear across all racial divides. And we provide for all people that want to come in and participate, not only within our programs, but within our facilities as well. And making it as easy as possible, making it welcome as possible for these folks to all enjoy in recreation and a sense of community. One of the things that I intend to do is start a small business coalition with Hispanic and Anglo workers that we can talk about businesses within our community that are diverse. And I think that needs to happen with the growing populations. We can talk about the issues, but we really need to welcome our community and represent the whole community as it grows. So I think with the communication, bringing in the small business opportunities and talking to the community leaders how we can broach those divides, if there are divides, that's one of the ways that we can start. And then also we bring in the city council and the small business groups to do that. And I think that's where I'd start.
The proposed Cherry Point shipping terminal that would greatly increase coal train traffic through Mount Vernon has raised concerns about the effects of traffic, and on the environment and public health due to pollution and noise. What actions do you recommend now to the mayor and city council, and what will you do as mayor?
Well, I was just in a meeting Monday about this particular subject. And the thing we have to realize is that it's a long process, a big process right now, but we have to be in at the early stages. Right now, they're starting to formalize the environmental impact statement, and the scoping statement is the critical area where we need to be involved with. The scoping probably won't start until after the first of the year. And we need to be at the table along with all the other cities and towns along the Burlington Northern Line to talk about the impacts of our community. The best thing that happened was that the state got involved and is running co-lead with Whatcom County on the environmental aspects. So it's a statewide issue, obviously, not just a Whatcom County issue. So what will help us is being involved with the state and the environmental impact statement and the scoping process that's coming up now. The other thing is you need to look at in this whole process, if you've seen any of the literature out there, is that you also suggested an alternative site. And there is an alternative site down in Longview that I think needs to be looked at. There's an old plant that was bought by the Australian group for this specific purpose. So if we can look at an alternative, I think that's the other thing we need to do. But we need to be on the scoping process. When the scoping process and the AIS come out, there'll be traffic studies, there'll be environmental studies, and they'll have to be reviewed by our traffic impact folks and all of our environmental folks as well. But it's a concern. It's a concern that we need to face, and we need to be up in the forefront when we do that. And the city's talking about it right now, and right after the first of the year, where the new mayor would take over, that would be one of my top priorities, to look at the impacts of the coal train through the city of Mount Vernon.
proposed Cherry Point shipping terminal that would greatly increase coal train traffic through Mount Vernon has raised concerns about the effects on traffic and on the environment and public health due to pollution and noise. What actions do you recommend now to the mayor and city council, and what will you do as mayor?
I think, first of all, we can look to our national politics now as the dangers of rhetoric. So my plan as mayor, my recommendations are to be very vocal in the scoping of the EIS process, but specifically prepare documents of the impacts that we would like to be included in Mount Vernon. Whether that is blockage of our emergency vehicles, whether it is our concern of health concerns, disrupting business downtown. We need to get them very specific things that we want them to take a look at. I've been accused of being pleasantly persistent. So it's not that we can give them a list and then hope that they will look at it seriously and include it. We need people to be persistent, reminding, hey, this is what we're concerned about in Mount Vernon. What can we do? How can we be included? Can we come to a meeting? Things like that. So I think that's very important that we're persistent. It is a very long process. So we can't lose our momentum and our concern as the process moves along. I'm very pleased that it's a statewide or a regional EIS process, and I think that goes well for us. In any event, what else we can do now is that I believe there will be increase in train traffic, whether it's coal, wheat, seed, water bottles, and things like that. So do we have impacts we need to look at now with increased rail traffic through our city? We do have mutual aid agreements with other law enforcement agencies, so heaven forbid there was a train accident and our city was cut in two. We have agreements with fire and police so that we can be covered. We have very skilled first responders who know how to use the radio, saying, hey, this part is blocked, you might want to go around this route when responding to a call. The police department started something on Twitter, so can we use that to alert citizens to stay away from an area if we need to? And we need to look at emergency management if there were to be some type of a train accident.
Would you explain how you would go about floodplain management for the city?
Can I flip to my card here? Flooding in the Skagit County is a county issue. It's nothing that the city of Mount Vernon can solve on its own. Of course, we are concerned with the flooding of our city limits, but it is critical to rebuild and maintain relationships with our county commissioners, our dike district, our state legislators, and other municipalities who all work together on this issue. We have an amazing flood protection project that is underway that I think is comprehensive and reaches far more than just flood protection as far as economic growth and livability in our city. But we also have West Mount Vernon that does not have protection like the flood wall, that we need to be concerned with that. I hope to get with people that are much smarter than I am on these issues and work together to have a coordinated response. Again, not just citywide, but with the county as well.
Would you explain how you would go about floodplain management for the city?
Well, for the city, it is a countywide issue, but the city needs to take the responsibility for the city. The GI study has been going on for a number of years now, and has had some funding issues. And the city cannot wait. As you know, we've done the first phase of the flood wall and Skagit River Walk. We're about $3.1 million from the second phase, which was covered from the bridge down to the Moose Lodge. And then the third phase would go from there with a ring dike around the wastewater treatment plant. That would relieve the threat of the downtown flooding. If you can imagine a flood in downtown with the federal buildings, the courthouse, the city buildings, and all of the businesses down here, how devastating that would be. We cannot wait for another entity to do so. By putting up our flood wall up there does not change a whole lot of downriver movement or upriver movement, because we still have the sandbags. If you think we're just replacing this with sandbags, we've protected this city in a number of floods, and I've been involved in those floods. And I'll tell you, it would be a whole lot easier not to get 2,000 volunteers and 200,000 sandbags to try to protect the city with the flood wall. So we need to do it. We need to do it ourselves. We need to find the money. It's going to be difficult in Olympia, but I'm willing to go down there and ready to go down there with my contacts to help find some money, both state and federally. We're close, folks. We are really close to protecting the downtown and really creating a whole new atmosphere of our downtown with the flood wall and the river walk. And it's not only the protection of the downtown, but it's also creating a tourist attraction and turning our eyes back onto the river instead of turning it away from the river by utilizing that flood wall and scheduled river walk and making it an amenity that we can use. So I think we need to do it ourselves.
In the near future, there is certain to be a ballot measure before Mount Vernon and Skagit County voters asking for funding to replace the county jail. How would you respond to voters and your council regarding questions and concerns about any tax measure to support this issue?
Well, I visited the jail. Charlie Wayne and I spent what seemed like an eternity in there, actually. And it's a serious problem. We need to be part of the solution. The city of Mount Vernon needs to be part of that solution. If the jail is to go with inside the city limits, and the old Christensen property is one of the alternate sites, we need to be involved. So for the aesthetics and the look of that jail as it comes into town, if that is the site. There's still a lot of different sites out there that they're looking at. The bond measure, I believe, is a sales tax increase. And a percentage of it comes to the cities that we have to then give back to the county for jail protection for our folks that were incarcerated. But folks, it's a serious issue. The overcrowding is a staffing danger problem with the staff in the county jail. And I wish we could do more. I would recommend to our city council, if that time comes, that we support that. And whether the jail is located in the city of Mount Vernon, which I think there's a lot of benefits for that, for the downtown businesses and all the traffic or pedestrian traffic that it creates. It's supposed to be to the courthouse. But I also think that we have to look at alternative sites as well. So I would support that measure, and I think that's what the question was.
Repeated question, it is long. In the near future, there is certain to be a ballot measure before Mount Vernon and Skagit County voters asking for funding to replace the county jail. How would you respond to voters and your council regarding questions and concerns about any tax measure to support this issue?
I want to thank whoever asked that question. During the course of this campaign, I've been trying to make the jail an issue of the campaign so we can talk about it. I first visited the Skagit County Jail in 2002, and at that time it was critical. I believe that this issue has been politicized in the county, unfortunately for all of us. And I want to tell you the impacts that it has on you every single day. It's not just about the comfort of the inmates. It's about public safety. So our officers are out there patrolling the streets, trying to keep it safe. They will frequently come across an offender who they know has warrants for arrest. Several warrants, matter of fact. The record that I've heard is 7, that they've come across a person with 7 warrants. They have called the jail, and there has been no room. So that offender walked away from that police officer with 7 active warrants because there was no room. There has been times where people have been stopped and supposed to be arrested and booked for theft. And they have been told, here's your ticket, and they walk away again, only to go to the next city and commit another crime the same day. That's the problem that is here, that we are faced with public safety. I would absolutely support any way that we can build a new facility, and I would meet with any of you to explain and have a conversation about why. Mount Vernon is the #1 customer of the jail. We unfortunately have 31% of the law enforcement activity in the county. And so we need a place to put folks that need to spend time in jail. I believe in justice, but I believe in redemption. And that's where the programs that the jail can offer can help prevent reoffenses of crime. Because ultimately, we want someone that have justice, but we want them to not commit crimes anymore. I would think we would all feel that way. So a new jail would not only provide a space for incarceration, but it would provide a space for redemption and in turn safety for us by preventing reoffenders.